Alrighty, what's up, everyone? I am back. This a bit after a bit of a break, and I'm finishing this free agency video, and then I'm also gonna upload in a bit my NHL and NBA opinions. But for now, I'm gonna be doing the infielder portion of my free agency rankings. Again, those are on Twitter, at JMCK pod. Um, all those rankings and everything, and this is kind of the explanation part behind that. Um, so infielders, I just compiled a list of all infielders. There's no catchers on this list because there aren't any good catchers really on the market this year. So it's shortstops, first baseman, second baseman, third base. Um, I just I don't know. I think it would have been too much just to do a shortstop ranking and then a second base ranking, third base. I mean, it's just too much. Um, so anyways, starting off our infielders, we have Carlos Correa at number one. Um, so I listed his deal at 10 for 75 million. That's what I have him projected at. And honestly, that's wrong. He's probably going to get the same money Seager's getting. Seeger got 10 for 325 from the Rangers. Um, and Correa is going to get the same amount just because Lindor and Seager have gotten that money, and Correa is probably better than both of them. Um, so he's not re-signing with the Astros. That's one thing we know for certain. He's definitely the best free agent in this class. If you watch baseball, he's just incredible in the playoffs. I've never seen anyone as clutch as him in the playoffs, and hopefully he can stay healthy. That's a big thing with him. He does get injured a lot. But when not, he's probably he's easily a top five shortstop. Um, and just on both sides, incredible defender, really clutch hitter. Um, Not so much in the regular season, more in the playoffs too. Still a great hitter though in the regular season. And is a franchise player regardless for any team who lands him. So um, the potential landing spots I had for him, I had the Cubs, I had the Red Sox. That's all I'm gonna stick to now. I guess I'll throw the Yankees in there. They don't have the money though to do it. It's just the fan pressure. But I really think if I had to guess, I'd say you wind up with the Cubs. Cubs really need a shortstop, and I do think this would be a good move for them, just because a lot of people are like, oh, well, they're rebuilding. They did just sign Stroman, and you need guys to build around. You need talent pieces, and that's something they don't have right now. Their best player is probably Ian Happ, and you got to start somewhere. And the smart teams right now, that aren't great are going to spend now in this market because you have to get, you can't just repair your team in just one off season. And this is one of the things that the Padres understood. They got Machado, and I guess Hosmer's a bad deal, but they got Machado when they were really bad, and everyone was like, "Why are they doing this? This is ridiculous." But they did it so that when Tatis, Cronenworth, um, who else? Mackenzie Gore still hasn't came in yet. Paddock, I guess. All their big prospects, Camposano came in. Um, you know, they they had some already established players. They had a decent team already. So, um, I'm a total big believer in locking up a guy if you really like him, and you don't have to. You don't have to be an insane team to be shopping for free agents. You can always improve your team, no matter the circumstance. And that's what good teams do. That's what the Rays did with Tommy Pham. They got him one trade deadline when their team was really bad, and they had him for next year, and he helped them make the playoffs. So definitely, something to keep in mind, I guess, when you're talking about teams and rebuilding is, don't shy away from getting good players, even if it's going to cost you a few wins for a draft pick. Next up, I have Freddy Freeman. So I believe Freeman is, let's see. Freeman is 32. Wow, I thought he was only 30. So he's 32. I had his deal at 5 years for 150 million. I think that's a good projection for him. I mean, I don't know. Like, would a team be willing to give him 6 years? Probably, but that's just not ideal. The landing spots, I had the Dodgers, I had the Braves, I had the Blue Jays, and I had the Red Sox. I know him and the Blue Jays have been in talks. I know the Dodgers are interested. I know the Red Sox may have expressed some interest, and of course the Braves. I'd really be disappointed if you didn't go back to the Braves. The reason I have him behind Correa is just because he's 32. He's kind of old. I didn't think he was that old, but he's definitely, I think he'll have some. He's still going to be an MVP candidate for like 3 or 4 more years, but then after that, he's going to start to age out, and you know, he's kind of winding up his, not really winding up his career, but he's getting on the later side, and he's only going to be a guy you'll have for 5 or 6 years. Um, but still, regardless, great player. Incredible. Basically, single-handedly carried the Braves in the playoffs with Jorge Soler. Next up, I have Marcus Simeon at number 3. So Simeon, in my opinion, is probably the best second baseman in the game. Maybe Jose Altuve competes with him, but Altuve gets injured a lot. Simeon was absolutely incredible this season. I think he had 45 plus home runs. Was pretty good. Was acceptable defense at second base. Was formerly a shortstop with the Oakland Athletics, and then the Blue Jays made him a second baseman after getting Bo Bichette. Um, and he gets 7 years for $175 million. So I believe Simeon is like 28, maybe a little younger than that. Sorry, older than that. He's 31. Yikes. Didn't think he was that old. So I think, I believe that's, let me do the calculation also. 175 divided by 7. Okay, so he got 25 million a year, and I think he deserves that, honestly. He's one of the most underrated players in this game. I mean, he's been an MVP candidate 2 out of the past 3 years. Consistently slept on. He's just a really good offensive player, and people kind of underestimate that with him. He is, I mean, he was great for the A's, hit leadoff for them. Um, was just kind of a machine for them offensively. And then I really wanted the Red Sox to get him in the offseason. Talked about that a lot in the free agency videos. And I was kind of surprised he only got a 1 year deal. I really was. And he certainly took full advantage of it, and now he's getting paid. So he's going to the Rangers. Not sure what the Rangers are doing. We'll talk about that in our division predictions video, but he's going to the Rangers, and I wish him the best luck. I like this contract. It's probably going to bite him when he's 37 and 38 and getting paid that type of money, but right now in his prime, he's definitely worth $25 million, and I guess it's a step towards getting better. But the Rangers, wow, they got a long way to go. One of the guys that helped them was our number 4 ranked free agent infielder, and that is Corey Seeger. They locked him up 10 years for $325 million. This is not a great deal, in my opinion. First off, I don't think he's worth $32.5 million per season. He's just not that good of a player. Again, not to say Corey Seager's a bad player. One, he gets hurt. He gets hurt a lot. He's been hurt a lot for the Dodgers, and the Dodgers have been able to kind of get by, considering they have a lot of depth. But Seager's very injury prone, which is one thing that I really don't like. And second off, yeah, he's been good in the playoffs, but what's his floor as a player? Is it 290 with 25 homers? I don't know if he's capable of having an MVP season, and that's just my opinion. He's pretty sound. He's decent defensively, I think. I don't really know much about his defensive metrics. I think he's decent. But bottom line, if you come down to it, if you watch Corey Seager, I just don't think he's worth $32.5 million. That's a lot of money for him, and it's a lot of money for a guy that gets injury prone. So not a huge fan of it at all. But, again, it's a step towards making their team better for the Rangers, so good for them. They put a combined basically around 66 million in their middle infield. So that's going to help revitalize their roster for sure, but they still got a long ways to go. Got to get some more starting pitching. And we'll get into it more. They've got some prospects coming into Josh Jung, Jonah Heim, and they already got Adolis Garcia, but still a while to go. Next up, we've got Chris Bryant at number 5. I don't really know why I have him at number 5, to be honest. Again, he's not really an infielder. He can play outfield too. I guess he's kind of formerly an outfielder, but the Giants used him at third. So Bryant, oh, I know why I had Bryant. I had Bryant at 5 because before this season he was just not very good. He had that one MVP season with the Cubs, but the COVID season, he wasn't great, and then the season before that, I don't think he was that great either. And then this season he really broke out, which I was happy for him. Let me just see this real quick. 2019. 2019 he actually wasn't that bad. Okay, well, 2020 in the COVID season, he was just horrendous. I don't know. I took kind of some stock in that. I think Seeger's a little more of a clutch hitter, probably a little bit better of a hitter. Bryant definitely brings some more defensive value, though. And let me see his age again. I really should have just wrote down the ages. So he's 25. I had him at a deal, 5 years for 140 million, and I have his landing spots at the Giants, Cubs, Mariners, and Braves. And there are definitely other teams that'll be open to signing him. I mean, everyone would love to have Chris Bryant. Let's be honest. I mean, he at his floor is a number 3 hitter, is a 3 hitter on a good team. Who's really solid defensively and can be your star player. I'm surprised his market isn't bigger, and his projected contract isn't bigger. And maybe I should revise that because I think he could get $200 million. He's just a really good player. And I have him at 5 because I don't know. He had a really good season last year. Changed up locations too. Still produced really well with the Giants and really flexed his versatility as an infielder and outfielder. One thing I will say is he is also a little bit injury prone. Got injured in 2020 and I believe 2019, and just has had some injuries before. And again, I love durability from guys. That's why I'm a huge Marcus Simeon fan. Very durable, never gets hurt, plays almost every game. And if he's not playing, then a guy from AAA is playing. So that's important. Next up, I have Trevor Story. So Story going in this season for me was the number 1 shortstop in Major League Baseball. Obviously, that is now probably Fernando Tatis. But Story is one of my favorite players, so I'm a little biased with him. But try to do my best and have him at number 6 and knock out some of that bias. So I had his projected deal at 6 years for $160 million. In the COVID year in 2020, his offensive stats were decent. He was like 290 with 10 or 11 home runs. I don't know what his WRC plus was. And then 2019 absolutely raked. Same with 2018, I believe. And then this year, it was a little bit of an off year for him. I definitely thought he could have had a better season, and it was a little bit concerning too. His stats away from Coors Field were horrendous. Believe he was around 200 away from Coors Field, which is really bad. He finished hitting 251 with 24 homers. Would have liked to have seen him get to 25, especially you got to take into account now, I think, Coors Field. When you're at Coors Field, it's an advantage hitting wise, and it's a little concerning he didn't get to 25 home runs, especially considering the monster years he's had before. So they don't have his road splits, which I'm looking for right now, but uh, like 80% of the way through the season, I looked at them and he was hitting like around 200. So that's concerning to me. And uh, yeah, that's concerning. And just offensively this season that he had this year is kind of concerning. Really just wish he kind of could have done better this season. Sorry, I'm muffling my words, but um, he just kind of had a suspect offensive season, which is why I have him at number 6. If he had another great offensive season, I probably would have had him at 1 or 2, just because of how highly I think of him. He's a great defender, really flexible, and athletic, and landing spots, I had Astros, Red Sox, Mariners, and Yankees. Those are all the teams he's been rumored to go to, and I think Astros, honestly, is most likely, which would be really interesting. Number 7, I have El Mago, Javier Baez. Again, got some bias towards Baez. I'm not the biggest fan of him. I think he's a very flashy player. I think he strikes out a lot. He doesn't walk. Um, Very good defender, makes some bad play, has some bad errors though occasionally. Um, but I just don't think he's that great of a hitter in my opinion. Good trade for the Mets actually. It worked out pretty well. He hit really well for them. And was a solid pair for Lindor for sure, but I'm not the biggest fan of El Mago. I think he's very overrated, and I think there are a lot of shortstops that are better than him, including Trevor Story. Um, but anyways, he signed a deal 6 years for $140 million with the Tigers. Um, Honestly, I'm okay with this from the Tigers. Look, they needed a shortstop. They kind of needed a star player too, and they got it in Javi Baez. He's going to be great for ticket sales, and also, they needed a shortstop. They needed a top of the order guy, and they got that with Baez. Probably overpaid a little bit, but I'm okay with it. 4 years for 140 to the Tigers, as they continue their rebuild, or rather, I say ascension towards contending. Um, Next up, we have Anthony Rizzo at number 8. Um, I gave him 4 years for 40 million, and I don't think he's gonna get that money. I think he'll get 2 for 20 maybe. In the landing spots, I had the Cubs, I had the Tigers, and I had the Yankees. Um, I think there's a chance. I guess the Yankees resign him. They kind of need a first baseman. Maybe I think they're gonna trade Luke Voigt. Um, and then I think the Cubs could definitely reunite with Rizzo. I think there's mutual interest there. Cubs need a first baseman. Tigers, they have Miguel Cabrera. Yeah, I don't know why I put the Tigers. Maybe they were rumored to be looking for him. But Rizzo, overall, in my opinion, I think he's like a Reese Hoskins type player. I think he's kind of overrated because of the market he played in and that he won a World Series. He's not a star player on a team by any means. I think he's a contributor. I think he's an above average first baseman and a contributor on, a team. I don't think he's someone you can build your team around, which isn't even a hot take at all. Like I think the majority of people who watch MLB would agree with me with that. I think he's a little bit overrated just because he was on the Cubs, um, and did well with them. But regardless, he's still a solid first baseman and someone worth pursuing in free agency. So we'll see what kind of deal he gets. I think it's pretty likely he goes to the Cubs. I'm surprised, honestly. I had Rizzo ahead of Eduardo Escobar, at number 9. Eduardo Escobar just signed with the Mets. Eduardo Escobar is an RBI machine. He can play a lot of different positions, and he's a switch hitter. Last season, the Brewers traded for him. Didn't hit well in the playoffs, but hit like decently well with them. Um, and I just like first his flexibility, and second that he's a switch hitter. And he's just a really good hitter overall. His RBI stats, I think, are top 5 within the last 3 years, in the MLB, and he's a pretty solid defender. So, and a lot of flexibility. So, really like this signing for the Mets. He's a great depth guy if he doesn't start for them, and is really going to help them out. Number 10, I had Brandon Belt. I just doing this based off of, the season he had last year for the Giants. Turn the clock back for sure. Let's take a look at his numbers real quick. Um, Brandon Belt, first base. Um, Yeah, so he hit 274. Wow, he hit 274 with 29 home runs. I mean, that is really good. 975 OPS. I mean, that is an incredible season from Brandon Belt. No one saw that coming. And he accepted his qualifying offer from the Giants 1 year for 18.4 million. So excited to see what he does next year. What is his age? How old is he? He's 33, so he's still like kind of young. I think a lot of people think he's older just because of how long he's been in the league for. But yeah, just had him there just because the season he had last year, absolutely incredible. And I hope he does well again next year. Number 11, we have the boomstick, Nelson Cruz. I know I do top 10, but I gotta include the boomstick in here. He's a DH, so I guess we'll throw him in the infielder category. I don't know where else we would put him. Um, and Boomstick was, I don't think he was that great for the Rays, honestly. It'd be interesting to see his splits, but I know he hit a lot of home runs. And I know, he was doing well with Minnesota when he got traded to the Rays. And I think he regressed. He regressed significantly. But he still finished with 32 homers and a 265 batting average, which is WRC plus. Um, his OPS plus with Minnesota was 148, and with the Rays it was 103. So he was honestly an average player for the Rays, an average hitter. Uh, with it doesn't say how many homers he had. He had 13 homers with the Rays. In 238 plate attempts. Yeah, so did not play well with the Rays. That's for sure. But was an absolute stud with the Twins when they traded him. And I thought it was a perfect fit for the Rays. It was another DH, another big bat that's going to hit homers for them and get on base. Just going to be an offensive machine. Thought it was something they needed. And I guess it just didn't really work out that well. But still, this guy can definitely get a job somewhere. Someone's going to want him. I had him 1 year for 10 million. I had the Mariners, Twins, and Rays interested, as well as the Red Sox if they miss out on Schwarber. And this guy's definitely going to get a spot somewhere. And maybe this will be his last year. And then he'll eventually retire. But anyways, that was a long video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back with the outfielders.